Well, Sanderson outdid himself with the short chapters again this week.
Yes. Even shorter this week.
Indeed. What is it, like 2 whole pages?
Yeah.
Basically.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, that's good news for all of you, because this means we're going to be doing a blind of 10, and this is going to be a very special episode in which we do 2 chapters in 1.
Yes, a twofer.
Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, That Darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are both going into the story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way.
Hold on to your butts because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read-through, and today we'll be covering chapter 9 and 10.
9 and 10!
Okay, you said it, thank you. Just wait.
Still scarred, eh?
Yeah, every time.
So I had an aha moment this week.
Mm-hmm.
It was a couple of chapters ago, I think, where we had heard the phrase heir of the survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked, and I was like, isn't there a book called Heir of the Survivor? And it finally clicked. It's not a book. It's this section of this book. It is part 1.
It's the part, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I figured it out.
Yay!
I also had an elevator thought regarding the logistics of last week's chapter. Did the Watcher, who was probably burning tin, hear that Orasur, the dog, could talk? It wasn't mentioned.
When would he have heard it?
After she faints,
Mhm.
Orasur shouts out, like, "Mistress, are you okay, mistress?" And then the Watcher is, like, kind of awkwardly investigating her to see if she's okay as well, kind of at the same time. And then after he leaves, she goes right back to talking to Orasur about the holding the medals thing. So I kind of feel like the Watcher could have been clued into this.
Yeah, that's true. It like to the point where I'm actually like, hold on, if he is included in that's a plot hole.
I wouldn't so much say, well, maybe. I mean, especially because he's burning tin, which means he should have an easier time overhearing that someone called out a name in that vicinity.
Yeah, and well, maybe he's not smart enough to put two and two together and go, there was a voice and then there was a dog. It could only have been the dog. Maybe he would. Your immediate reaction would be, okay, there was a human somewhere, and they sent their dog, or they were in the window, or who knows.
Right. So I guess we have to see, one, if anything comes of this, and we'll have to see how smart this Watcher is anyway.
Yeah.
And then I had added in a little thing as editor to clarify that I think the Watcher will be sort of a romantic rival to Elend.
I hope so.
So I wanted to give you an opportunity to comment on that. So you hope so?
Yeah, because I was digging him. I thought he was pretty cool and mysterious. So so I was like, that. Yeah, I was enamored. So I'm hoping for something for Vin, but it can at least complicate things for her. That there is another option. It's not just just little spook. It's a mysterious mistborn man. Ooh.
I mean, hey, as of this point in the book, I'm still shipping Spoon. But if it comes to Elend and Watcher, I don't know enough about the Watcher such that I'm leaning towards Elend.
Yeah.
I will, of course, learn more about who the Watcher is, and I will make that determination. But I definitely think that it has been set up that the Watcher represents for Vin the Mistborn side of herself.
The wild,
And
not noble.
Yeah, and his first line was something like, "Why do you play these games?" And Vin, as far as I can tell, doesn't care for the games or the politicking. She's in it to protect the ones she loves, not because I
Yeah,
mean,
she
she
says
was,
as much.
yeah. So there's a certain freedom, I think, as you've pointed out, that he could represent as well. And it's a bunch of sides of her that Ellen can't be for her or understand.
But yeah, but that being said, I don't see Vin turning away from Ellen yet. She seems really earnest in her love for him. So
I
we'll
agree.
see. So she might be confused or something, but I'm not feeling like this is going to
Inner
change her mind.
conflict.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Enjoy knowing people that know.
Yeah. I mean, considering how possessive isn't the right word, but like the crew was commenting on how she doesn't get along with other court women, and she grabs Ellen tighter at the mention of other women. It would be she is so afraid of people abandoning her. It'll be really interesting to see her feel romantically for someone else but not want to abandon Ellen in the way that she fears she could be abandoned.
Yeah, that would be an interesting dynamic to see, like, do I stay? I've now committed to him, and along with the marriage proposal, what does that mean? So I'm hoping it is a romantic rival, not just a cool sparring partner.
Yeah. And then what does that mean for Spook?
It means he finds another woman. Spook's gonna go and be cringy over there.
Oh boy.
Vin will be his what do you call it, like wingman.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
But in this chapter, we get the buddy cop movie I didn't even know we needed with Sawzed and Marsh.
Indeed, it's not as fun as a buddy cop, in my opinion, but I get what you mean by that.
A little more Odd Couple, a little less buddy cop.
Well, shall we get into this very long and complicated?
I think we shall.
Mm.
But let me begin at the beginning. I met Olendi first in Klenium. He was a young lad then, and had not yet been warped by a decade spent leading armies.
Okay, epigraph notes here. Right, so this just lends itself to the thing that the idea that he was kind of discovered or pointed to as the hero person, and that led to the armies. That's what I feel like. Maybe it's because of my Wheel of Time influence, because in Wheel of Time, the hero is like a farm boy and then basically becomes a king because of the prophecies and that sort of thing. So that's what I've got in mind.
Right. So I don't think there's anything in here that we didn't really know or surmise already. It sounds like he was the unimportant son of a blacksmith. He was fairly young when Quan discovered him, and we are theorizing that he was named the Chosen One, and as such became nobility in some way and started gaining a following, which of course leads to armies, which of course leads to people saying, "You're not the Chosen One, screw you."
Exactly. which of course leads to armies going against each other.
Yeah.
So that's what you need them for. Yeah, so it's not that we didn't know this, we're just kind of getting okay, so this is
Quan's
where
perspective on it.
Yeah, and then when we have where he met him, Millennium, and I guess the keyword there being warped by a decade of spent leading armies. So like something, so Alendi was different, obviously, before leading armies for a decade. Which, yeah, you can see that happening to a person.
Yeah, when you're told the entire fate of the world and existence rests on your shoulders, of course that's gonna warp a child or a young adult.
A person, I think no matter how old they are, it's going to warp them.
True.
Yeah, and leading armies he speaks about it in the logbook of like sentencing people to die, and that's the only way he can do it, and all of that stuff. That warps a person. Those experiences turn them into something that they weren't before. So I guess that's what he's kind of lamenting here.
Yes.
Be interesting to see this perspective, more of it from Quan. Like, what does he mean by warped? Like, what was he like before, and what happened? What happened during those leading of armies thing? That leading of armies. What happened there?
I presume it's that he became, in Quan's words, ruthless. In Quan's word, ruthless.
Just be precise in your language there. Yes, word. Right. So let's get into it.
Let's do it. Marsh had changed. There was something harder about the former seeker. Something in the way he always seemed to be staring at things Sazed couldn't see. Something in his blunt responses and terse language. Of course, Marsh had always been a straightforward man. Sazed eyed his friend as the two strode down the dusty highway. They had no horses. Even if Sazed had possessed one, most beasts wouldn't go near an inquisitor. What did Spook say that Marsh's nickname was? Before his transformation, they used to call him Iron Eyes, the name that had turned out to be chillingly prophetic. Well, that's a little bit of lampshading there, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. When I first read it, I didn't think of it that way. I was just like, yeah, that's cool. That is a good connection. I wasn't like, duh. So it's not lampshading in my opinion.
It does make me wonder if the line from the other book, Iron Eyes, if that's foreshadowing or not.
Yeah, it would be. I think you can count it as that. And
okay.
Well, and he does talk about it now. Well, I guess no, it is foreshadowing. Never mind. And the way because Spook associates it with Steel Inquisitors. He does say it. He goes that owners. It was like he says it in the dialect or whatever, that he just puts the two ideas together. I like that. I think it is foreshadowing. And
Excellent.
And also just the fact that it is actually tragic. So it's not haha, look at that.
Yeah, it is tragic.
It's tragic. It's sad that that's what he actually turned out. He was transformed into. I don't think it's an easy process. I don't think it's a pleasant process. And now he's very changed. And my question here, while you're first reading it, is this what usually happens to Steel Inquisitors, or is it like accelerated or worsened by the deepness no longer being held at bay in some way?
Well, we've certainly always known Marsh to be a very serious person.
Mm-hmm.
But my mind also goes to the fact that he's literally always experiencing pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's maybe a pain that he's prepared to endure and is resigned to enduring, but when I think of the power-hungry inquisitors of Book One, of Carr, I feel like they, not necessarily that they enjoy the pain, but that they are more, it's less of a burden for them for the sake of becoming dominant and experiencing power. Whereas with Marsh, he became this thing for more altruistic, I don't even know if I want to say altruistic reasons, because we know how strongly he felt about destroying the Inquisitors, because he said it was comparable to the way that Kelsier felt about destroying the Lord Ruler. So I almost want to say it's more of a revenge-driven thing, but I don't know. Now I'm waffling. Help me, Kitte.
No, I'm thinking there is that yes, you're trying to say that he has some sort of self-serving thing by going after the Inquisitors and the Steel Ministry, right? That for himself. But at the same time, the reason he wants that revenge is because of what they've done to the Scar. It is still altruistic. It's the reason he wants revenge is just from absolutely on everyone's behalf. So yeah, I guess we could go into that discussion the same way Sazed seems to think that wanting better for the world is his ego. But
I think the core of what I'm trying to say is that the pain of being an Inquisitor, I think, would extract a heavier toll on, well, Marsh, who I currently believe to be a generally morally good character, whereas someone who is of a less moral character would be able to not necessarily shrug off that pain as much as be willing to endure it for the sake of the trade-off.
They would be able to embrace it because they can revel in the power that it gives them.
Yes.
But do you see the parallel with the epigraph? Because
a changed man, yes.
Yeah, changed man, warped by a decade spent leading armies. So this, Marsh is warped by all of that, by the experience of being a Steel Inquisitor, of whatever the hell he can remember of that. And yeah, he is the first thing is Marsh had changed. So he had not yet been warped. So I like that. It really does hit the same note.
And then there's that line, he's always staring at things that Sazed couldn't see. We know that he sees in infrared or whatever. He sees the metal in everything.
Yes. Yeah, and that also is what makes me go, is he seeing more than what most people see of whatever's going on with the deepness? Can he see weird shadowy things that other people can't see?
Interesting.
So
what do the mist creatures look like to him?
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm worried that way. So anyway, let's continue.
Yeah, me too. Most of the others found Marsh's transformed state discomforting, which left him isolated. Though Marsh hadn't seemed to mind the treatment, Sazed had made a special effort to continue a friendly relationship. I love Sazed so much. Friend to the outcasts.
Of course. Kind Sazed.
Yeah. He still didn't know whether Marsh appreciated the gesture. They did seem to get along well. Both shared an interest in scholarship and history, and both were interested in the religious climate of the Final Empire. And he did come looking for me. Of course, he claimed that he wanted help in case the Inquisitors weren't all gone from the conventicle of Saron. It was a weak excuse. Despite his powers as a ferochemist, Sazed was no warrior.
I would say, yeah. Look, he can do some stuff, but he's not Han, you know? Or do you
Correct. No, I do agree.
Okay, so what could the real reasoning be?
Do you think it's friendship?
Yeah, I think it's support, like other kind of support. Knowledge support. Help of any kind. Yeah.
Also true.
Or it's a trap and I'm scared. I
hope it's friendship. I want it to be friendship. I want the buddy cop movie.
Yes, let's do it.
You should be in Luthadel. Sazed looked up. Marsh had spoken bluntly as usual, without preamble. Why do you say that? They need you there. The rest of the Final Empire has need of me too, Marsh. I am a keeper. One group of people should not be able to monopolize all of my time. These peasants will forget your passing. No one will forget the things that will soon happen in the Central Dominance. You would be surprised, I think, at what men can forget. Wars and kingdoms may seem important now, but even the Final Empire proved mortal. Now that it has fallen, the keepers have no involvement in politics. Most would say we never had any business being involved in politics at all. Ooh.
I think he's parroting basically what has been told to him. He's supposed to feel this way. He doesn't necessarily agree with it, but this is what he's supposed to think.
I agree, but also this line, you would be surprised, I think, at what men can forget. He would know that better than anybody.
Yeah. He's trying to make them remember. They've completely forgotten curiosity. They've completely forgotten whole parts of humanity, really, because it's literally been bred and beaten out of them.
And they were essentially forced to forget. Like when you think about what we IRL have forgotten about history, add on the history that was destroyed and
Purposefully suppressed. Yeah.
yeah. Marsh turned those eyes toward him, sockets filled entirely with steel. Sazed did not shiver, but he felt distinctly uncomfortable. And your friends? Also, Marsh specifically says the central dominance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you make of that? Because we know that the Well of Ascension is not in the central dominance.
It's something. Then I just think of Luthadel. I immediately think of Luthadel. Whatever is happening there, the battle and things like that. That's what I'm thinking he's referring to. Well, that's what the book wants us to think. I think.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
I think that the world will not soon forget what's going to happen to everyone. I think that deepness is coming for everyone, not just the central dominance. But I can see Marsh's point that the central dominance will be a focal point for a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, it is. Look, if our theories are correct, it's where the hero of ages is. So stuff's going to go down.
Yeah. Marsh turned those eyes towards him, sockets filled entirely with steel. Sazed did not shiver, but he felt distinctly uncomfortable. And your friends? This touched on something more personal. Sazed looked away, thinking of Vin and of his vow to Kelsier that he would protect her. She needs little protection now. She's grown more adept at allomancies than even Kelsier was. Yet Sazed knew that there were modes of protection that didn't relate to fighting. These things, support, counsel, kindness, were vital to every person, and most especially to Vin. So much rested on that poor girl's shoulders. Yes,
so
and if
I was gonna sit. What I was saying is, you see, Sazed, so that might be why you're along with Marsh. See, he did just think, oh, it's because he said, I'm no warrior. Why would I be here? It's like, well, maybe when you, like you said, for friendship, Marsh is there. Marsh has brought him along because of counsel, guidance, support, those softer skills. Friendship.
And Sazed is so insightful, and we have theorized that Finn is on a bit of a depression arc. Mm-hmm. Of course, she's gonna need that from him.
No, and he's important to her. It would just help her immensely. She doesn't just have this antagonistic relationship with Orosur to deal with, and then Elend. And I think it's a very important relationship for her.
Yeah, I mean, she's got the rest of the crew too, but they don't, I think, necessarily have the EQ that Sazed does. I mean, or Ellen, at least, maybe because of his unique relationship with her, but even him, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think. And just the relationship that they had before, the friendship they had before was important to her. That literally he was the thing that the Inquisitors went after to hurt her. That's how important he is.
I have sent help. What help I can. What help did he send?
Yes, what did you make of that?
Like, are there other keepers in Luthadel?
So yes, that's the possibility that there's keepers he sent. Did he send the Watcher? That was my first.
Ooh,
my first question.
Like, no, the Watcher said he was an enemy.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I know.
Maybe.
I know he said that, but I mean, what I thought is he could still have sent this person that's questionable. But yeah, I agree. It's unlikely. But that was my first thought because we literally just had a chapter with the Watcher.
True. Anyway, I want to know what help. I mean, the only thing I can think of is other keepers, but even that, I don't think it's that.
And how long ago did he send this help? Because it's not there otherwise.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it's there.
I don't think it would be books. I mean, a book seems like very much a Sazed gift, but she doesn't like books. But like, I could totally see Sazed being like, okay, so here's a book on a religion that I think will help you through your emotional troubles right now. Here you go. Okay, see ya.
I'd still be upset with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I somehow I don't think it is that.
We will have to find out. More questions. Let's go.
Yep. I have sent help. What help I can. Not good enough. The things happening in Luthadel are too important to ignore. I am not ignoring them, Marsh. I am simply performing my duty as best I can. The wrong duty. You will return to Luthadel once we are finished here. Sazed opened his mouth to argue, but said nothing. What was there to say? Marsh was right. Did you think that was an order, or do you think that was a premonition?
It sounded like an order, but it could be both. It's like, you will do it because that's what I know you're feeling. Because he does. Don't
That's
they
what I
have
think it
a sense
was.
of a person's emotions as well? So that's why Sazed's like, just kind of reading my mind, or like, so they do have a sense of emotions.
Yeah.
So that's probably where he's getting it from. So I feel like it's maybe he needs that nudge, because now what happens is Sazed doesn't even argue with that. So he needs that statement. I think it's kind of like, stop playing with stop.
It's Sazed. You've already made your decision.
Yeah,
You're going
exactly.
back. And it's just like, yeah, you're right. I did. You're right. Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, stop messing around. Stop lying to yourself. Let's go.
You will return to Luthadel once we are finished here. Sazed opened his mouth to argue, but said nothing. What was there to say? Marsh was right. Though he had no proof, Sazed knew that there were important things happening in Luthadel. Things that would require his aid to fight. Things that likely affected the future of the entire land once known as the Final Empire. So he closed his mouth and trudged after Marsh. He would return to Luthadel, proving himself a rebel once again. Perhaps in the end he would realize that there was no ghostly threat facing the world, that he had simply returned because of his own selfish desire to be with his friends. In fact, he hoped that proved to be the truth. The alternative made him very uncomfortable.
I can agree with that. Like, yeah, I would rather be wrong, but you're right, Sazed. Sorry, we got books and books to go through. I feel like there's enough evidence for us.
Yeah,
something's going on. And again, we have that thing of his selfishness. He's taking the fact that he wants to be with his friends as selfishness and ego and being a rebel. That's not what he is, but now he's just going to have to go and be a rebel again. He's accepting it, I think. Actually, he is accepting that he's a rebel, and he's just going to be. I like that Marsh is the reason he stopped lying to himself. Marsh just like, it's the wrong purpose, it's the wrong duty, okay? And he needed that from someone. He needed that support from a friend.
Agreed. But yeah, a very short but functional chapter. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that there did need to be sort of a between chapter to have this conversation, because if he had included all of that in the first Sazed Marsh chapter, it would have felt clunky pacing wise.
Yeah, I did consider that as well. It's like, why not put it in the same chapter? It just wouldn't have felt like there was a sufficient time jump as well. Yeah, it would have been clunky.
Yeah, so it works. But with that said, it was very short.
Therefore,
we're going to go straight into 10. Neither of us have read 10. So this is another blind read-through.
Let's go.
Alendi's height struck me the first time I saw him. Here was a man who towered over others, a man who, despite his youth and his humble clothing, demanded respect.
Okay, so we're learning more about Alendi. Alendi is tall.
He carries himself well, nobly, dare I say. He commands a room. He's George Washington.
Yes. He has gravitas.
Yes. Anything else to say there?
No. Oh, and he look, again, we've got the repetition of his youth and humble clothing. So when you did first see him, he was humble, he was rural, I suppose. Yeah. Rural-ish. Well, not rural, just not noble.
The Watcher was average height, right? He wasn't uniquely tall or commanded
Yeah.
respect in any kind of
No,
way?
just mysterious.
Okay. I was considering a thing, but I didn't think the thing was actually the thing, so.
I don't know. Say it out loud.
I briefly asked myself, is the Watcher a Lendi? But no, I don't actually think that.
Well, yeah, we have to ask ourselves, but we have brought up unlikely things before. You know?
True.
Yeah.
The assembly hall was in the former Steel Ministry Canton of Finance headquarters. It was a low-ceilinged space, more like a large lecture room. There were rows of benches fanning out in front of a raised stage. On the right side of the stage, Elland had constructed a tier of seats for the assembly members. On the left of the stage, he had constructed a single lectern for speakers. Oh, are we going to get the speech? Are we gonna?
Yeah.
I hope so. Man, if something happens like right before, if he gets up there and he's about to say the first word and then someone crashes through the window, I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
sad.
annoying. Yeah, like listen, he's worked on this, and we want to know. We also want to see what kind of orator this man is.
And who the assembly is made up of.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The lectern faced the assemblymen, not the crowd. The common people were encouraged to attend. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Witness
Ellen,
Parliament.
yeah, public trials. Elland thought that everyone should be interested in the workings of their government. It pained him that the Assembly's weekly meetings usually had only a small audience.
That just reminds me of that's what Sazed's going through. It's kind of like, okay, you're free now. Take advantage of your freedom. Be involved. Think about these things, and they're just like, no, I've got other things to worry about. Like you deal with this, okay? I'm not ruling myself here. Like just get out of my way.
Vin's seat was on the stage, but at the back, directly opposite the audience. From her vantage with the other bodyguards, she would look past the lectern toward the crowd. Another row of Ham's guards, in street clothes, sat in the first row of the audience, providing a first line of protection. Elland had balked at Finn's demands to having guards both in front of the stage and behind it. He thought that bodyguards sitting right behind the speakers would be distracting, but Ham and Vin had insisted. If Elland was going to stand up in front of a crowd every week, Vin wanted to be certain she could keep a close eye on him and on those watching him.
Yeah, good, Vin.
Fair.
Yeah, fair. Sorry, Ellen. He's like, oh, don't fuss over me. It's like, no, we do have to. Sorry, you're gonna have enemies, dude.
Yep, you're a target, like it or not. Not everyone's gonna be interested in collaborative politics, Elland.
Yes, I'm sorry, naive Ellen.
Getting to her chair therefore required Vin to walk across the stage. Stares followed her. Some of the watching crowd were interested in the scandal. They believed she was Ellen's mistress, and a king sleeping with his personal assassin made for good gossip. Others were interested in the politics. They wondered how much influence Vin had over Elland, and whether they could use her to get the king's ear. Still others were curious about the growing legends. They wondered if a girl like Vin could really have slain the Lord Ruler.
Yeah, she's got a lot. There's a lot to talk about when you see Vin.
Yeah. I'm curious if any of these folks in the audience are from the Church of Kelsier.
Yeah, I would expect it. I'd expect it, at least a few of them.
Yeah.
Because she's there.
Thinking that Vin is Ellen's mistress. He's not out there dating anyone else. Now, granted, she hasn't accepted the marriage proposal, but mistress? I don't know.
Mistress is a scandalous thing that it's like, oh, it's his secret lover.
It's not so secret though, is it?
Yeah, but it's not official, you see. So
fair.
Yeah. So that makes it a scandal. Like, oh, no, they're just having a good time without the strings attached. Oh, scandal.
Indeed. Vin hurried her pace. She passed the assemblyman and found her seat next to Ham, who, despite the formal occasion, still wore a simple vest with no shirt. Sitting next to him in her trousers and shirt, Vin didn't feel quite so out of place. Ham smiled, clapping her affectionately on the shoulder. She had to force herself not to jump at the touch. It wasn't that she disliked Ham, quite the opposite. She loved him. as she did all the former members of Kelsier's band. It was just that, well, she had trouble explaining it, even to herself. Ham's innocent gesture made her want to squirm. It seemed to her that people shouldn't be so casual with the way that they touched others.
Interesting. Vin's properly traumatized. Still, obviously.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, but this is normal. This is a normal approach. People have mostly the same threshold. She just has a lower threshold of tolerance for this kind of thing.
Yeah, and presumably you get to know the people you're interacting with. You know if they are, well, huggers or not, so to speak.
But yeah, there are people that the physical contact of any kind is just strange to them. They understand the meaning of it, but it doesn't feel right. And I think that's just a residual of her past.
Agreed. She pushed those thoughts away. She had to learn to be like other people. Ellen deserved a woman who was normal. Oh no.
Oh, Ben. Again, it's like crush-based growth. Yeah, it's like, oh, I must be normal. I must assimilate, not or get more comfortable with people, not because it would be better for me, and I have the reasons that I have that fear are gone. These people I can trust, not because of that. No, it's because I need to be normal for Ellen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but just, there's so much trauma in that sentence.
Yeah.
Like, you're better than normal. You're special.
Yeah, you're Vin.
You don't have to touch people if you don't want to, and you can set that boundary. That's fine. That is totally normal.
Yeah.
He was already there. He nodded to Vin as he noticed her arrival, and she smiled. Then he turned back to speaking quietly with Lord Penrod, one of the noblemen in the assembly. Lord Penrod, new name.
Yeah, and there you go. You've got a nobleman in the assembly. You're wondering who's in it, so we got that one. Ellen will be happy. Place is packed.
They're worried, Ham said quietly, and worried people pay more attention to things like this. Can't say I'm happy. All those people make our job harder. The crowd was a strangely mixed one, a collection of different groups who would never have met together during the days of the Final Empire. A major part were noblemen, of course. Vin frowned, thinking of how often various members of the nobility tried to manipulate Elend and of the promises he made to them. It's interesting that this is mostly noblemen. I would have assumed, like, if they performed a census, that Ellen's kingdom would be mostly Ska. But I guess it makes sense that noblemen would be more inclined to be involved in government affairs.
Yeah, that's been part of their wheelhouse, again, we've got Ska that haven't even had the ambition to lead themselves. So finding leaders within them is going to take a while, and they just need access though to those positions. But yeah, it's not a great look on the other hand as well, just optically, just all how much has changed. But then again, there is a change there. People that would never have met during the Final Empire.
Yeah. What's that look for? Ham asked, nudging her. Nudging her, still with the touchy?
No.
Now I'm going to notice every time Vin is touched.
Yeah. Oh.
Vin eyed the thug. Expectant eyes twinkled in his firm, rectangular face. Ham had an almost supernatural sense when it came to arguments.
I don't know about this, Ham.
This?
This.
Vin said quietly, waving her hand at the assembly.
Ellen tries so hard to make everyone happy. He gives so much away. His power, his money.
He merely wants to see that everyone is treated fairly.
It's more than that, Ham. It's like he's determined to make everyone a nobleman.
Would that be such a bad thing?
If everyone is a nobleman, then there is no such thing as a nobleman. Everyone can't be rich, and everyone can't be in charge. That's just not the way things work. Thank you, Vin. Look, it's not that I want it.
When everyone's super, no one will be.
Exactly. But she knows there's different. Vin is not a commie. Okay. She knows that there's issues with this kind of approach, and she's wondering about them. She knows that she's been in the hardest tier of society. Okay. She knows she's been in
The
survival of the
ultimate
fittest.
meritocracy. If you
Yeah,
don't merit, you die.
yeah, exactly. So she knows that people are different. She knows there's hierarchies that are natural. Not that there are, free of tyranny, but she knows that that's in human nature. We were just talking about Ellen being naive. So, yeah, I'm with you, Vin. He's trying to make everyone happy, but it's not possible. But also, he is trying, though. It's better than just saying, oh, well, keep it the way it was. We want something different.
Yeah. And I suppose Vin does not have the government theory experience and background that Elend
Mhm.
does.
Yeah.
But also, wartime powers might be kind of needed right about now.
Yeah, we had this previously where it was just she's just like, "Hello, you're the king. Just do what you
And
want to do."
and it is entirely likely that Elend is probably overcorrecting. And we'll know
Mhm.
more as we learn more, but I wouldn't put it past him to
Yeah.
have weakened himself too much.
Yeah, I agree. And there is this thing that he could. So there is the overcorrection, and then yes, we are to believe that he's read all these kinds of theories that would have warned, hopefully, against overcorrection. But he just seems, well, would they have warned against overcorrection, those thinkings, those philosophers? I mean, you could just have Karl Marx in there, and he's just running with that. I don't know.
Hard to say. We need to know more.
As
Also,
usual.
a slight editing change. Mine says not everyone can be rich and not everyone can be in charge. That's simply not the way things work,
Uh,
which I think
well,
is a bit different than
yeah,
yours.
I've got just a lot of the time the difference between mine and your edition will be simply and just being swapped
Yeah.
around. Mm. If everyone is a nobleman, then there is no such thing as a nobleman. Everyone can't be rich, and everyone can't be in charge. That's just not the way things work.
Perhaps, but doesn't Elland have a civic duty to try to make sure justice is served?
Civic duty. I should have known better than to talk to Ham about something like this.
Vin looked down.
I just think he could see that everyone was treated well without having an assembly. All they do is argue and try to take his power away, and he lets them.
Interesting. Mine says, and he doesn't stop them.
Oh.
Ham let the discussion die, and Vin turned back to her study of the audience. It appeared that a large group of mill workers had arrived first and managed to get the best seats. Early in the assembly's history, perhaps 10 months before, the nobility had sent servants to reserve seats for them or had bribed people to give up their places. As soon as Elland had discovered this, he had forbidden both practices. Other than the noblemen and the mill workers, there was a large number of the new class, ska merchants and craftsmen, now allowed to set their own prices for their services. They were the true winners in Ellen's economy. Beneath the Lord Ruler's oppressive hand, only the few most extraordinarily skilled ska had been able to rise to positions of even moderate comfort. Without those restrictions, these same people had quickly proven to have abilities and acumen far above many of their noble counterparts. They represented a faction in the assembly, at least as powerful as that of the nobility. That's very interesting and informative.
That's good. You would want representation. Um,
Capitalism.
yeah, they're the businessmen that have risen through the ranks.
Other ska peppered the crowd. They looked much the same as they had before Ellen's rise to power. While noblemen generally wore suits, complete with day hats and coats, these ska wore simple trousers. Some of them were still dirty from their day's labor, their clothing old, worn, and stained with ash. And yet, there was something different about them. It wasn't in their clothing, but their postures. They sat a little straighter, their heads held a little higher, and they had enough free time to attend an assembly meeting. Alan finally stood to convene the meeting. He had let his attendants dress him this morning, and the result was attire that was almost completely free of dishevelment. His suit fit well, all the buttons were done up, and his vest was of an appropriate dark blue. His hair was even neatly styled, the short brown curls lying flat. Okay.
He's looking smart.
He knows this is important.
Mhm.
Normally, Elland would begin the meeting by calling on other speakers, assemblymen who would drone on for hours about various topics like taxation rates or city sanitation. This day there were more pressing matters. Gentlemen, I beg your leave to depart from our usual agenda this afternoon in the light of our current state of city affairs. The group of 24 assemblymen nodded, a few muttering under their breath. Elend ignored them. He was comfortable before crowds, far more comfortable than Vin would ever be. As he unrolled his speech, Vin kept one eye on the crowd, watching for reactions or problems. The dire nature of our situation should be quite obvious. We face a danger that this city has never known: invasion and siege from an outside tyrant. We are a new nation, a kingdom founded on principles unknown during the days of the Lord Ruler. Yet we are already a kingdom of tradition, freedom for the Ska, rule by our own choice and of our own design. Noblemen who don't have to cower before the Lord Ruler's obligators and inquisitors. Gentlemen, 1 year is not enough. We have tasted freedom, and we need time to savor it. During the last month, we have frequently discussed and argued regarding what to do should this day arrive. Obviously, we are of many minds on the issue. Therefore, I ask for a vote of solidarity. Let us promise ourselves and these people that we will not give this city over to a foreign power without due consideration. Let us resolve to gather more information, to seek for other avenues, and even to fight should it be deemed necessary.
Okay, how do you think he's doing so far?
I'll be honest, I think it's kind of a weak start.
Yeah, it's not a huge punchy thing, but I do see what he's doing with it. He's like, look, we've overcome, we've just created our nation. Our nation is great. Look what we did with our nation. Look what we're doing. Now we have to protect it. So I think it's a good enough argument.
I like the part about their principles being new and untested. I like the part about freedom for the Ska and rule by our own choice. That is all good. 1 year is not enough. That is good. What I don't like is that he isn't coming in with a solution. Now, obviously, he doesn't necessarily have a solution, but he's come in with, let us promise ourselves and these people that we will not give this city over to a foreign power without due consideration. Let us resolve to gather more information, to seek other avenues. That part feels just a bit weak to me. What substantial thing has Elend asked for here? What practical step is he asking to be taken here? A vote of solidarity? That's symbolic. It's nothing like what he seems to be making himself as king.
Yeah, it seems like let's just wait a little bit. Let's not be too hasty. But then we should fight if it's deemed necessary. It's like, I think it's already necessary.
Exactly. He needs to impress upon them, not that they need to be looking for an answer. He needs to say,
this is the answer.
That the surrender is not an option. They will take away your freedoms. They will enslave you all once again.
Yes, that's the greatest lever or whatever that he has to use. Pull it.
There are other options out there that we can find together, but we cannot give up. And this whole, just the way he phrases it, it could be stronger.
Yeah, and that's the first time he's bringing it up. So I've just read that the speech went on. So that was what we're allowed to hear, and that was his first bringing it forth. That was not it. Like, you would want a big punchy surrender is not an option kind of thing.
Yeah,
you don't want, let's consider it, and I ask that we do votes of solidarity. So yeah, Elend's naivety quite on display here.
Yeah, I mean, hell, like, make a call for this Ska merchant class to help fund the city defense. That's a thing. That is an actionable thing. Call on the noblemen to do something. Call on the assembly to feel like they can take action that isn't just them sitting around twiddling their thumbs trying to think of something. Thinking feels like less of an action than doing something in this situation.
Yeah. And proposing more thinking is not, it's not going to help people. I don't think so. Like, it seems like that's all they've been doing.
Yeah. The speech went on, but Vin had heard it a dozen times as Helen practiced it. As he spoke, she found herself eyeing the crowd. She was most worried about the obligators she saw sitting in the back. They showed little reaction to the negative light in which Ellen's remarks cast them. Did you get that from Ellen's remarks?
Well, he does talk about there was no we have new principles at during the days of the Lord Ruler, referring to that at all. They were part of the old regime. That's not the good.
Yeah,
that's not good.
I guess there could still be pride there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also his speech has gone on, so you don't know what he said.
Fair. She'd never understood why Ellen allowed the Steel Ministry to continue teaching. It was the last real remnant of the Lord Ruler's power. Most obligators obstinately refused to lend their knowledge of bureaucracy and administration to Ellen's government, and they still regarded Ska with contempt. Yet Ellen let them remain. He maintained a strict rule that they were not allowed to incite rebellion or violence, but he didn't eject them from the city, as Vin had suggested. Actually, if the choice had been solely hers, she probably would have executed them. I'm with Ellen on this one.
Not executing them. Oh, yes. But, yeah, trying to get their skills. They know how the country is run. They know how the land is run. We do need them. You can't just... You're then having to reinvent the wheel.
I thought Marsh was supposed to be there to get them on board with the new government, but essentially, if what Ellen is after here is freedom of religion, executing them, I think, would lead to a persecution complex, which would be ironic coming from the Steel Ministry of all places, but more trouble than it's worth. Yeah. I think Ellen is in the right here.
Yeah. He's practicing what he preaches himself.
Eventually, Ellen's speech drew to a close. That's all we get? I'm disappointed. Unironically, I wanted more of this speech. Eventually, Ellen's speech drew to a close, and Vin turned her attention back to him. Gentlemen, I make this proposal out of faith, and I make it in the names of those we represent. I ask for time. I propose that we forego all votes regarding the future of the city until a proper royal delegation has been allowed to meet with the army outside and determine what, if any, opportunity there is for negotiations.
So yeah, he's it still feels dawdily. It feels it doesn't feel like action. It just, he's like, oh, I want to talk. I don't know how that's gonna go.
Yeah, which isn't a surprise from the setup that we've had leading up to this. He has been very focused on, I just want to talk to Straff first and see if there's no other way. But I really, really would have loved, we need to prepare for the worst. Surrender's not an option, or at least not a viable option.
Yeah, more emphasis on that than, I just need time and I just want to talk to it. It's more like, we don't surrender. That's the main thing, is that you need to avoid, is the surrender part.
Yeah.
And you're not really stoking any sort of passion.
Is freedom worth dying for?
Yes. So that's the thing.
Our values are good. I know, Straff, they're bad.
References that I'm not getting.
No? No, that wasn't a reference?
Okay, I'm just checking.
I was faux speaking Ellen. Our values are good. I know Straff. He's a bad guy.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, he literally tried to kill me. I'm his own son. But then at the same time, then you're like, oh, I know Straff, he's a bad guy, but I want to negotiate with him.
Yeah. Disappointing.
But I think that's supposed to be. I don't think he's done well here. And then also it's just making us go, really, what was his speech before? I guess when he's speaking the best. His speech when he became the leader, he was speaking from the heart, and that was great. Now this over-prepared stuff, just don't think it's his forte.
He has that Katniss Everdeen syndrome, where she does well when she's not thinking about it, but okay.
Let's see what happens.
He lowered his sheet, looking up, waiting for comments.
So you're asking us to give you the power to decide the city's fate?
Said Phelan, one of the merchants on the assembly. Phelan wore his rich suit so well that an observer would never have known that he'd first put one on about a year ago. Well, now hold on, Phelan. That is not what I got from that speech.
Yeah.
What I got from that speech was, let's not do anything until I talk to him.
Yeah. Not like, oh, so yeah, he's taken that completely, just like, oh, yeah, so you're telling me I'm not making the decision. Yeah, this great times governing.
Yeah. What? I said nothing of the sort. I'm simply asking for more time to meet with Straff. Yeah, thank you, Ellen, for calling that out.
Well done. Dorkus is happy with Ellen.
Yeah.
He's rejected all of our earlier messages. What makes you think he'll listen now?
We're approaching this wrong. We should be resolving to beg Straffventure not to attack, not resolving to meet with him and chat. We need to establish quickly that we're willing to work with him. You've all seen that army. He's planning to destroy us.
Please, Ellen said, raising a hand. Let us stay on topic.
That is on topic, Ellen. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, that they're saying this is what we should be doing. You've somewhat weakly proposed something to do, which seems like
which is
more
nothing.
Of the same.
You have proposed nothing.
Yes, that's exactly it. You've proposed nothing. You've proposed nothing new. Instead of taking the time to emphasize, don't surrender. That he hasn't framed this negotiation as an alternative to surrender. Like, he hasn't framed it in that way as an action, like you've said. It's just more of the same. Oh, I need more time. Yeah. I don't know about saying I need more time. Maybe don't say it that way.
Yeah, say it better, damn it.
Be a better politician.
One of the other assemblymen, one of the ska, spoke up as if he hadn't heard Ellen.
You say that because you're noble. It's easy for you to talk about working with Straff since you've got very little to lose.
Very little to lose? I and all of my house could be executed for supporting Ellen against his father.
Ha! This is all pointless. We should have hired mercenaries months ago, as I'd suggested.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
How do you afford it? But yeah, that's an action you could take.
And where would we have gotten the funds for that?
Asked Lord Penrod, senior of the noble assemblymen.
Taxes!
Gentlemen! Gentlemen! This garnered him some small measure of attention. We have to make a decision. Stay focused, if you please. What of my proposal?
It's pointless. Why should we wait? Let's just invite Straff into the city and be done. He's going to take it anyway.
Vin sat back as the men began to argue. The problem was the merchant Phelan, as little as she liked him, had a point. Fighting was looking like a very unattractive option. Straff had such a large army. Would stalling really do that much good? So as I'm reading that, I was a little worried that Vin is going to try and soothe him.
Soothe who? Soothe the...
Phelan.
Okay. I'm wondering if there is a policy against that now.
I would imagine there must be.
Yeah, because we had soothing stations and things like that in the Final Empire that are not allowed. I'm sure Vin wants to use it, but then there's probably a rule against it.
But again, that's why if Ellen wants more time, he needs to propose actions that can be taken within that time. Something beyond, I want to talk to him.
Yeah, exactly. It's not making sense. That it's especially because he's just rejected messages. It feels like this decision is made. There has to be some sort of fight, some sort of action.
And as I mentioned earlier, obviously the merchants are primarily interested in making money, which is why Ellen should be impressing upon them their civic duty. If you want mercenaries, help us fund them. You can voluntarily pay more taxes than are necessary if you want.
help us out. But they suggested it from their side. They suggested it. So
Buy war bonds.
do that. Do something. I agree with him. It's pointless. That was a good thing. She's like, yeah, huh?
Look, see, Ellen said, trying to get their attention again and only partially succeeding. Straff is my father. Maybe I could talk to him. Get him to listen? Luthadel was his home for years. Perhaps I can convince him not to attack it.
Wait, what of the food issue? Have you seen what the merchants are charging for grain? Before we worry about that army, we should talk about bringing prices down,
said one of the Ska representatives.
Always blaming us for your problems,
one of the merchant assemblymen said, pointing, and the squabbling began again. At the lectern, Ellen slumped slightly. Vin shook her head, feeling sorry for Ellen as the discussion degenerated. This was what often happened at assembly meetings. It seemed to her that they simply didn't give Ellen the respect he deserved. Perhaps that was his own fault for elevating them to his near equals.
Yeah, that's just... Have you seen British Parliament? The way they yell and carry on? Yeah, that's what happens. When you assemble people together to argue about issues, they will do so.
Where's the gavel? Where's the king shouting order in the assembly?
Order, yeah, exactly. There's none of that. And yeah, there's no authority. It's a bit too free. It's showing us what happens when... Again, Vin's right that you can't make everybody... There has to be some sort of leadership. And she believes wholeheartedly in his leadership. She's like, look, if they just listen to him, everything would be fine. But at the same time, she disagrees. She doesn't know the point of talking to Straff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, but Ellen needs to step up his game.
Mm-hmm.
He really, really does. Parliament can exist. Assemblies can exist. Congress and the Senate can exist. But be better, Ellen. Come in with a better proposal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he really, the way he's like, maybe I can help. Maybe I can convince him not to attack. I think that is over. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can say.
My question is, why isn't Breeze here giving Ellen speaking tips?
Yeah, not allomancy, but speaking tips. Yeah, where is he? What is he doing?
Right? Why isn't Breeze here trying to influence and politic with the rest of the assembly and sway them in that way?
Yeah.
Finally, the discussion wound down, and Ellen got out a piece of paper, obviously planning to record the vote on his proposal. He did not look optimistic. All right, let's vote. Please remember, giving me time will not play our hand. It will merely give me a chance to try to make my father reconsider his desire to take our city away from us.
Ellen, lad, we all lived here during the Lord Ruler's reign. We all know what kind of man your father is. If he wants this city, he is going to take it. Thus, all we can decide is how to best give up. Perhaps we can find a way for the people to retain some freedom under his rule.
That's not entirely an unreasonable statement.
Yeah, I understand that, considering that. And again, if Ellen had really emphasized the thing of not surrendering, then we could be thinking of something else. Like, we could be... Like, I don't like that idea. You know, I guess it is just the only option to try and stay alive and then hope that you can, rebel again from within and just hope it's a little bit better. I don't like the position they're in, but I don't want them to surrender.
Yeah, I don't want them to either. I'm confident there's a way that they can win, but yeah, Penrod brings up a fair point. The noblemen and many of the Ska likely know Straff's character just as well as Ellen. So
yeah, they know that there's no point in talking to him. So that itself, the thing that he's proposing here, is not an option anymore. So we should be talking about what else we could do. So we're not voting on there's more time. Let's figure out what else we can do.
Right. The group sat quietly, and for the first time, nobody brought up a new squabble.
Just also another thing I realized, we were just talking about, well, Vin was just thinking about how they don't give Ellen the respect he deserves. And literally this Lord says, Ellen, lad. Like, who speaks to the king that way? He's a lad. Yeah.
Good point. That's a very good point. That is
It's
a
like,
very
oh, okay.
specific way of addressing the king.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay, you're young. You don't really understand. Like, I see what you're saying, but you're wrong, son. It's old sport kind of thing. Like, no.
Now hush, child.
Hmm.
A few of them turned toward Penrod, who sat with a calm, in-control expression. Vin knew little of the man. He was one of the more powerful noblemen who had remained in the city after the collapse, and he was politically conservative. She had never heard him speak derogatively of the Ska, which was probably why he was so popular with the people.
I speak bluntly, for it is the truth. We are not in a position to bargain.
I agree with Penrod,
Phelan said, jumping in.
If Elend wants to meet with Strathventure, then I guess that's his right. As I understand it, kingship grants him authority to negotiate with foreign monarchs, but we don't have to promise not to give Strath the city.
Yes?
You see, that is the focus of Ellen's speech, was not about saying don't give him the city. That's why I feel like he should have focused on that, because now this is the most likely option. Fine, we don't have to promise not to give Strath the city, which is kind of, I wanted that to be the promise.
Master Phelan, I think you misjudged my intent. I said that giving up the city was inevitable, but that we should try to gain as much from it as possible. That means at least meeting with Strath to assess his disposition. Voting to give him the city now would be to play our hand too soon.
That makes sense.
Okay, that's with Ellen. That's more on Ellen's side then.
Yeah,
We must talk to him.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're actually going to agree to give him the time.
Mm-hmm. It seems like it's the thing that upsets the least people, I suppose.
If the group has chosen to look at Ellen's inability to take a firm stance as not ruling their specific stance out, good, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's just not the sign of a strong leader to not come in with some sort of position. Come in with a strong moral position, but be open to being convinced of another way. That's what Ellen needs to do.
Yeah.
Ellen looked up, appearing hopeful for the first time since the discussion had initially fallen apart. So you support my proposal?
It is an awkward way to achieve the pause I think necessary, but seeing as how the army is already here, then I doubt we have time for anything else. So yes, Your Majesty, I support your proposal.
Several other members of the assembly nodded as Penrod spoke, as if giving the proposal consideration for the first time.
That Penrod has too much power,
Vin thought, eyes narrowing as she regarded the elderly statesman.
They listen to him more than they do to Ellen. So yeah, that's exactly it. They were not even considering it until he said, yes, I accept it. And he's is this the same guy Penrod is the guy that said lad to the king. So yeah, I'm getting it.
Should we vote then?
One of the other assemblymen asked. And they did. Ellen recorded votes as they moved down the line of assemblymen. The 8 noblemen, 7 plus Elend, voted for the proposal, giving Penrod's opinion a great deal of weight. The 8 Ska were mostly for it, and the merchants mostly against it. In the end, Elend got the 2/3 vote he needed. Okay.
Okay.
Of course, the Ska were going to be for it. They are almost certainly going to not want Strath around.
Yeah. And not want to fight either, so it's like, okay, fine, let's try.
Proposal accepted, Ellen said, making the final tally, looking a bit surprised. The assembly divests itself of the right to surrender the city until after the king has met with Strathventure in official parley. Vin sat back in her seat, trying to decide what she thought of the vote. It was good that Ellen had gotten his way, but the manner in which he'd achieved it bothered her.
Same.
Bothers me too. Stinks, basically. It's not unnatural for certain politically savvy individuals to gather power. And it's not unusual for uniquely charismatic individuals to garner support. I mean, this is how it works.
Yeah. And it works no matter that is how it works no matter how you try to structure your assembly. It happens. Within any group of people, there will be influences and there will be operators as well that just know how to play the game better than others. It's inevitable, this kind of thing. You can't put a
Yeah.
rule against being a human into basically Parliament.
Yeah. Elend finally relinquished the lectern, sitting and letting a disgruntled Phelan take the lead. The merchant read a proposal calling for a vote to turn control of city food stockpiles over to the merchants. This time Elend led the dissent, and the arguing began again. Finn watched with interest. Did he even realize how much like the others he acted while he was arguing against their proposals? Elend and a few of the Ska assemblymen managed to filibuster long enough that the lunch break arrived with no vote cast. The people in the audience stood, stretching, and Ham turned toward her. Good meeting, eh? Vin only shrugged. We really have to do something about your ambivalence towards civic duty, kid.
I already overthrew one government. I figure that takes care of my civic duty for a while.
Ham smiled, though he kept a wary eye on the crowd, as did Vin. Now, with everyone moving about, would be the perfect time for an attempt on Ellen's life. One person in particular caught her attention and she frowned.
Be back in a few seconds.
Oh no!
Ooh,
It's probably
who is
just
it?
someone that wants an autograph.
an...
You did the right thing, Lord Penrod, Ellen said, standing beside the older nobleman, whispering quietly as the break proceeded. We need more time. You know what my father will do to this city if he takes it. Lord Penrod shook his head.
I didn't do this for you, son. I did it because I wanted to make certain that fool Phelan didn't hand over the city before the nobility extracted promises from your father about our rights to title.
Well, there it is again. He says, I didn't do this for you, son. Nobody is seeing him as a man. He's still Straff's son. Just a little guy trying his luck. And if Penrod sees him this way, you can best believe that people that follow him or look up to him don't find
See him as the child.
Yeah, they don't find Ellen formidable or valid. I would say at least the noblemen don't think of him that way. The noblemen think of him as just the son of Straff. It'll be more difficult for them to look at him that way.
Now see, Ellen said, holding up a finger, there has to be another way. The survivor would never have given this city away without a fight. Ooh. I don't think mentioning the survivor to this guy is the argument that you think it's going to be. It's a better argument for the Ska, but for this guy, no.
He's like, who? The survivor? Ska scum? Okay, fine. I know that Penrod doesn't speak of the Ska, derogatively or whatever, and that's why most people like him or have been able to he's palatable that way. I don't think
that be hiding it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That doesn't mean that he is not against Ska. So bringing up the survivor again, just no, that's not a good idea. Just because he doesn't publicly announce that he's definitely just a nobleman after his own nobility. He's just like, oh, we need our rights to title. Make sure that I maintain whatever I have when your father comes back in here. Who gives a crap about the Ska?
Yeah. Very, very. Elend is very bad at this.
Yes.
How did they elect him king?
Breeze must have been doing some great stuff.
Apparently. Penrod frowned, and Elend quietly cursed himself. The old lord was a traditionalist. Invoking the survivor at him would have little positive effect. Many of the noblemen felt threatened by Kelsier's influence with the Ska. Think about it, Ellen said, glancing to the side as Finn approached. She waved him away from the assemblymen's seats, and he excused himself. He crossed the stage, joining her. What is it?
Woman at the back. Tall one, in the blue.
The woman in question wasn't hard to find. She wore a bright blue blouse and colorful red skirt. She was middle-aged, of a lean build, and had her waist-length hair pulled back in a braid. She waited patiently as people moved about the room. What about her?
Terrace.
You're sure?
Those colors, that much jewelry. She's a Terrace woman for sure.
So?
So I've never met her, and she was watching you just now.
People watch me, Vin. I am the king after all. Are you? Are you?
You don't act like one. You're sunny boy. You're a lad. Okay.
People watch me, Vin. I am the king after all. Besides, why should you have met her?
All of the other terrorist people have come to meet me right after they entered the city. I killed the Lord Ruler. They see me as the one that freed their homeland. But I don't recognize her. She hasn't ever come to thank me.
Elend rolled his eyes, grabbing Vin by the shoulders and turning her away from the woman. Vin, I feel it's my gentlemanly duty to tell you something.
What?
You're gorgeous.
What does that have to do with anything?
Absolutely nothing. I'm merely trying to distract you. Slowly, Vin relaxed, smiling slightly. I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, Vin, but you can be a bit paranoid at times.
Oh?
I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. Now, I happen to find it rather charming, but do you honestly think that a terrace woman would try to kill me?
Probably not. But old habits.
I'm with Vin on this one. Something strange about this woman. Trust her instincts.
Yeah, it's something strange about her. And hello, we did just get, obviously we have the knowledge that Sazed sent help. So this must be the help.
Possibly, but why would she not? I mean, I guess there isn't a law saying that terrace people have to go thank her, but why wouldn't she? I mean,
Maybe
that
she's
question's
just
there
arrived.
in my mind now, so.
Well, maybe she's just arrived.
True.
That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, I'm okay. I'm with Vin on anything unusual is worth investigating. That's her job. You can't just be like, well, that was weird and continue. No. It's her job to be paranoid for him, especially when he's just not really garnering any favor in his new government.
Yeah. Ellen smiled. Then he glanced back at the assemblymen, most of whom were speaking quietly in groups. They didn't mix. Noblemen spoke with noblemen, merchants with merchants, ska workers with other ska workers. They seemed so fragmented, so obstinate. The simple proposals sometimes met with arguments that could take hours. Oh my God, have a ball. Let them meet and interact. They need to give me more time, he thought. Yet even as he thought, he realized the problem. More time for what? Penrod and Phelan had accurately poked holes in his proposal. Because your proposal sucked, Ellen! You should have asked yourself that question beforehand.
Yeah. What could their arguments be? Those are pretty good arguments. Maybe this shouldn't be my next step, but okay.
The truth was, the entire city was in over its head. Nobody really knew what to do about a superior invading force, least of all Elend. He only knew that they couldn't give up. Not yet. There had to be a way to fight.
Then put that in your proposal. There
Right?
has to be a way to fight. Like, that's what you should be talking about. Try do that. Try stir passions in that way. Not just, I need more time to think about it. No, we've done that. It feels like you've done that. And also, I love the way he says the city is in over its head. I think Ellen's in over his head. I don't blame him for being in over his head. Look, it's not for everyone. Also, I wouldn't want to be in his position. But yeah, do better, Ellen. Do better, Ellen.
Vin kept looking out over the audience. Elend followed her gaze. Still watching that terrace woman? Vin shook her head.
Something else. Something odd. Is that one of Clubs' messengers?
Indeed, several soldiers were working their way through the crowd, approaching the stage. At the back of the room, people had begun whispering and shuffling, and some were already moving quickly out of the chamber. Elend felt Vin stiffen in anxiety, and fear stabbed him. We're too late. The army has attacked. One of the soldiers finally reached the stage, and Elend rushed over. What? Has Straff begun the assault? The soldier frowned, looking concerned. No, my lord. What then? My lord, it's a second army. It's just arrived outside the city.
Ooh. That could be good or bad. I don't know. I think
could be good or bad.
It helps that. Oh God. Okay, it could be bad because what if both armies are against Ellen? But then again, those two armies, if they were against each other, that would help Ellen out.
Right. So here are the options. 1, it's relief for the city. 2, it's an army come to join Straff. 3, It is an army come to conquer the city, but is in opposition to Straff as well. What are there any other options? They took a wrong turn at the fork in the road.
Yeah. Well, who do you think it is? What do you think is most likely?
I want to believe that it's relief.
Me too.
Okay, it's gonna be a plot. They are going to play the saviors of the city by defeating Straff. Then they will be invited into the city as a result, and then they will take it over nefariously. That's my prediction.
Okay, do we put that in the prediction log?
Yes. I'm
Okay,
willing to commit that to the prediction log.
Okay.
Also, I think it's going to be, what was the guy's name? Ashweather Set's army?
Ashweather
Set.
Let's have a look. Elend the Immortal, Misting that stabbed Vedic. The Quan epigraphs will parallel the journey of current day characters. What was the epigraph? Let's just quickly go back. Youth and humble clothing. Oh yes, this is a very good one. Sorry, going back to the epigraph. Alendi's heart struck me at first when I saw him. It all talks about him demanding respect, and this is something that Elend does not do in this chapter. I like the parallel. Sorry, I was just pointing out a parallel with the epigraph.
Yes, I like it as well.
Oh, also wait, on our prediction log we said Ellen's speech won't work. So we got that wrong.
Yeah, true.
Because it did work, but I think we were right in that it didn't work the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, we were wrong. The speech worked somehow miraculously. No thanks to Elend.
Yeah, no thanks to Elend. What else is there to say about this chapter? Good chapter. I'm happy.
Yeah, it was. What was it? It was. We finally get into the politicking. So I'm looking forward to getting even deeper into it. This was, I think, establishing the factions, and I want to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I'm interested in it. I'm okay with political intrigue being the action going on. But we do have an army, and well, we have two armies now. So I think action is on the cards. Inevitably.
Yeah.
But you should like this video and subscribe to the No One Asked You podcast if you have not already.
If you like. But also, go and subscribe to that darn Kitty, because she's got a wonderful channel where she does diagram streams and panel shows and other things frequently.
All weird, chaotic things. Who knows?
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, thanks, boy.